what do you need to shoot a handheld product B-roll? Well, first a camera, of course, any camera, and I'm using my Canon M50 today because I want to show you guys again that you don't need an expensive camera to shoot a cool product B-roll. Then some cheap lights or the light coming from a window, that will work too. And most importantly, this. What? Welcome back to another video, guys. So good to see you all again. You're all awesome, you know that, but I have to keep saying it, you know, because every video there's a lot of new faces. So yeah, thank you all for subscribing and watching. I really appreciate it. And if you're new here, you know, the button is down here somewhere. But anyway, back to my B-roll. I call this commercial style B-roll. It's not really a commercial, but it has a bit of a commercial vibe. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it's the kind of B-roll that's useful for a lot of videos. I hope you like it as much as I do, because I think it turned out great. I shot that sequence in not even an hour. I think it was half an hour, and then editing took an hour and a half. So I'll break down the whole process, camera settings, lighting setup, I'll give you some tips, and of course, I'll show you why you need this high-tech piece of gear. Next level, guys, but let's start with the camera settings. I used my Canon M50 to shoot that sequence, but of course any camera will do, even a smartphone. I shot that whole sequence in 60 frames per second, so I could slow down the footage by 40%, and that will help to get rid of most of the camera shake. Because remember guys, it's all handheld here. I didn't use a gimbal or a slider, handheld only. Shutter speed, of course, 125th of a second because of the 60 frames per second. I also used the neutral camera profile, white balance set to 5600, ISO 320. On my Canon M50, I like to keep the ISO below 400 to avoid too much noise in the shadows, but of course it depends on the camera that you're using. And then I also turned on image stabilization. So if your camera has that, also turn it on. Now, for some shots, I did add some stabilization in post, but I'll show you that later. And finally, instead of using the kit lens, I used the 22mm at aperture 2.0. Again, you can use any lens, but of course, if you want that shallow depth of field, make sure to use a low aperture number. Somewhere around 3.5 will work fine, because we're going really close to the subject. And that also helps with that shallow depth of field. Alright, and because we're going so close to the subject, if you have a macro lens, then use that one. You can use lights, but if you don't have any, use natural light. That will work too. Use the light coming from a window, for example, as the main light. Of course, you won't have all the colors that I have in my video. Using natural light will give your footage a different vibe, different look, but it works just fine. Okay, so there is of course the subject, in my case a camera. Then my main light is the Godox SL60W. It's over there, coming in at an angle of 45 degrees, slightly from above. Then, to add some color, I used my Pixel RGB light, and you can put it wherever you want, whatever works best for your subject. I put mine on a boom arm coming from above, like this. And then on this side of the subject, I put a white sheet of paper to reflect some light on this side. I don't know if you can see it, but it lights up the shadows over here a little bit. And then in the background, some more RGB lights to make that wall blue, and that's it. Now, something really important here, maybe some of you have noticed it already, I don't use a backdrop or anything like that. And that's first of all because I don't have one, but more importantly, if you use the room or whatever location you're in as the background, it will create a lot more depth and movement, because the background and your subject will move separately. You know what I mean? I think it looks really nice. But of course, the background also has to look good, so don't use just any random background. Make sure that it fits with whatever you're shooting. A backdrop also works, but it looks different. I wouldn't say boring, but a lot cleaner. It just depends on what you're going for. And then the table I used, it's not ideal, it's dirty, there's holes, there's dents, but I like it that it's black and shiny, because it fits the whole mood and vibe that I'm going for. I forgot to tell you something, guys. Don't forget to clean your subject. Remove all the fingerprints and the dust, because when we're going really close, you will see all that and it will ruin your sequence. Okay, and then it's time for the shoot. Again, nothing crazy here. First of all, get a lot of different shots. I don't make a shot list for a short B-roll like this. I just get all the angles, all the details. Make sure to get wide shots, close-ups, and also make sure to get a lot of different movements. Don't only do push-in movements for every shot, because then your sequence will look very boring and weird. Also, always remember that you can reverse a shot. So a shot from left to right is also a shot from right to left. And for example, if you want a push-in shot and it's difficult to focus, you can always start close to your subject, focus, and then move backwards. Then just reverse the shot in post and you'll have a push-in shot. But always make sure to get a lot of different angles and movements. Otherwise, you will regret it when you start editing. Now, for a simple sequence like this, there are two different types of shots. First of all, the shots where you don't have any support, so it's just a matter of a steady hand. For each shot, I do at least 10 takes, so that I can pick the steadiest one when I'm editing. And then we have the shots where you can rest your arms or hands on the table. And that's when you need this high-tech piece of gear. Just a piece of cloth or a tissue, whatever you can find. And it's super simple. I put this under my hands so I can slide super smoothly over the table. The piece of cloth is my gimbal or slider. It really helps to get super smooth and steady shots, because if you don't use this, then there might be some friction while you're sliding, and that will cause a lot of camera shake. Sometimes camera shake that you don't see on the little screen, but you will see it on the big screen, and that's horrible. So try to find something that slides smoothly over the surface that you're using. A tissue, a piece of cloth, a piece of paper, anything, as long as it slides. Okay, now a few editing tips. The most important one, if it's your first time, keep it simple. I added some speed ramps to pimp up the sequence, but you don't need those to create something cool. The most important thing is the music. Pick a track that you like and that fits your project and edit to the music, to the beat. Simple cuts to the music, that's all you need to do. That's the first thing you need to learn. Feel the music. In DaVinci Resolve, but also in most other editing programs, you can see the music to help you, but of course, listen to the music. The music is your guide. If it's up-tempo, make fast cuts, slower music, slow cuts. That's all you need to pay attention to, and once you get the hang of that, try some speed ramps and things like that to spice it up. But again, you don't need those. Good shots, a lot of different shots edited to a good music track. That's the base, the foundation. And then the second tip, always add some stabilization in post. I don't know how it works in Premiere or Final Cut, but in DaVinci Resolve it's super simple. Just select the clip, go to the inspector and add stabilization. I found that for footage like this, similarity works best. So select similarity, stabilize, and boom, super smooth shots. And there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.